Welcome back to Brain Tank Democracy. I don't even know what we decided to call this, but today, if you're watching this or listening to it, you're someone who's interested in the political landscape of the United States, especially that there is an election this week in the first week of November in several states, such as Virginia, New Jersey, New York. And we're going to speak about those as well. My health care. All right. I'm someone who lives in a state that is in the lower 48 that has a right aligned legislation or legislators. And as a result, besides that, basically, I have Obamacare. And even though my state actually has a good healthcare plan, I was paying 21 bucks a month, or am paying 21 bucks a month as of right now, till January 1st. And once the next, depending on what plan I enroll in, but if I were to stay into my current plan, which is am better, gives me dental, vision, general health, everything packaged into one plan for 21 bucks. It's a freaking fantastic plan. And I have a great $300 credit. So it really would probably be like 350, but I have like $320, $330 in a credit due to my student loans. And I still have that credit, but they sent me a letter saying if I were to renew that exact plan, it's gonna be $230 a month now. 10 times.
$230 a month.
Yeah. And that's with my premium credit for the interest I pay on my loans or will be paying on my loans.
Everybody thinks that the Affordable Care Act doesn't do anything. And everybody thinks that until it's time for it to actually do something. Everyone, especially people in red states who voted against this stuff because of politics, right? Because of the
Yeah.
propaganda, everyone who voted against this stuff, most people who are going to be affected by this are going to be the people who voted against it enthusiastically. In a cruel twist of irony.
The very cruel twist of irony, Rockhound. And today, Rockhound joins me, Chappie, as we'll discuss Virginia, New Jersey, and New York. We'll start with New York real quickly, as much as people want to see. I don't think as much as people want to, but as much as mainstream media and the right wing media want you to think that Mondani's odds are slipping, unless the integrity of our elections has failed us, or if the polls are completely 100% wrong. I mean, they've been wrong before, but like basically, Mamdani's like
This
a
would have to be,
runaway, like
yes,
he's the runaway favorite, which he
this would
should
have to
be.
be an astounding level of wrong for this to
Like it's
happen. And
almost it'd be like fraud or like like uncharacter like an uncharacteristically bad polling, like worse than Trump winning in 2016.
oh yes, it could because at this point he's such a big favorite, right? And I think
Yeah.
the biggest takeaway from this election, before we get on to the governorship races, the biggest takeaway from this election shows the strength of meeting people where they are and running an effective ground campaign, an effective grassroots campaign. The Mondani
And
campaign, what it did,
affordability.
yes, the Mondani campaign, what it did so well was it was focused on the issues that people actually cared about, which is affordability. Because all these other issues that people use to try to pit people against each other, like abortion, gay rights, all these other issues, again, not saying that they're not important because they are, but the biggest thing that everybody cares about the most is affordability. That's the number one issue that everyone from all backgrounds relates. And that's what the Mondani campaign focused on, an affordability issue, focusing on things that matter, such as housing, utilities, transportation, and all of the everybody made so much noise about all these other issues that weren't related to Mamdani's campaign, such as Mamdani's past pro-Palestinian activism, right? And all these issues Mamdani kept saying I think the quote that sums it up the best is when they asked him, "Where would you in the primary? Where would you go on your first foreign visit to New York?" And everybody is answering all these cities. They're talking about going to Tel Aviv. Some people are talking about Jerusalem, whatever. And Mondani says, "I would stay here in New York and focus on the five boroughs." So when you look at that, all of this shows that this is what the people want, and the Democrats at the national level need to take a note from this. People folk want affordability, and they don't want to be demeaned and talked to like they're lesser than. Mamdani treated these people like they were people. He met them where they were, and he focused on the issues that they cared about, and that's why he's most likely going to win.
Exactly. And running on things that everybody could agree with. Taxing the rich, the fund a city-owned grocery store to regulate prices, free public transportation, freezing rent, and pushing for a $30 minimum wage by 2030. Simple ideas. Now, moving to the other elections, we'll go to Virginia, where it's a little easier, black and white, where it's a Republican and Democrat governor. One named, correct me if I'm wrong, the Democrat nominee is Abigail Spanberger, while the
Yes.
Republican is Winsome Earl-Sears. And the two big policies that are being the conflict of interests for people is the abortion rights. Obviously, Earl-Sears is going to push for pro life, and Abigail Spanberger is going to be pro choice. And of course, the mid cycle redistricting. It seems like Virginia, if Spanberger were to win, that would give Democrats a potential governor who would push for Virginia to be redrawn to give Democrats a chance to fight the redistricting and gerrymandering that Republicans are pushing for in their states, while Earl-Sears would oppose it, as he would just, push for 2030 for the normal redistricting, because if Virginia redistricted, it would benefit Democrats more than it would Republicans. And right now, Spanberger is defying history with an early 55-41 poll lead.
Yes, and this race is very interesting, and the Republican candidate has said some very interesting things. For example, there was she made past comments, I think a few years ago, where she called abortion a genocide. She wants it to be illegal in basically every circumstance except for the life of the mother. And to that point in, along with to connect that with her other beliefs of her super Christian fundamentalist stance, she is against same-sex marriage, like openly against it. She opposes them having the right to marry. She's opposed to marriage equality, and she also said in I believe it was there was a debate last month, early in October. She said she has literally said before that firing people for their job because they are gay is not discrimination. She said that. So in recently all these comments have started to get more traction, and she is completely tanked right now. Like the polling averages, I'm looking at Vote Hub on the website right now, that 52.4 to 43.2%. This has been it barring a complete miracle or election, tampering, and but barring anything like that, this seems like it's going to be a pretty clear race. It's going to be pretty clear that Spanberger is going to win. She ran more of an effective campaign, and the checkered past of Winsome Earl-Sears with her questionable comments in a state that is overwhelmingly pro-abortion is not good. And one other factor that I think we need to talk about here is the government shutdown. Virginia has by far the highest percentage of like federal government employees that live there of any state.
Yeah,
So
no,
all those people are out of work because of the Republicans and the president. And they know that too. They're not going to fall for this. It's the Democrats shutdown bullshit because they are federal government employees they know. So that's going to be another big factor that determines the elections in Virginia for the next couple of years.
agreed. And now let's pivot to New Jersey. This is an open seat gubernatorial. Is it national or natorial?
Notorial.
Gubernatorial contest between Democrat and Republican. What are their names? I know you've been following this one more closely.
It's New Jersey, man. There's 10 million people here.
No, quiet, quiet. this is a state that you're more closely been following. And tell me what the names of the Democrat and Republican nominees are and what are the platforms that they're running on. My understanding is basically cost and energy cost mainly.
Oh yes. So in New Jersey, the biggest things in New Jersey right now, one of the biggest issues is the rising electricity
What
costs.
are the
That's
candidates'
also
names?
Mikey Sherrill and Jack Chitterelli.
Who's the Democrat and who's the Republican?
So Mikey Sherrill, she is currently a congresswoman from New Jersey, and she's a Democratic congresswoman. She is from Newark. She's from Essex County, and she's represented the United States in the House for the past few years. And obviously, when if you're a if you're in the House, running for governor of your state is kind of like a lateral move. It's not really a downgrade, right? So she's decided I'm going to run, the governor's seat is open. I'm going to run for governor, and she won the primary, and this is how she ended up here. Jack Chitterelli, he's previously ran for governor. He tried to beat Phil Murphy in the last election, and he lost. And so he's a failed candidate before, but he's trying to win again under a state that a lot has changed since the last governorship election in New Jersey. The biggest thing is electrical costs. So Virginia, that's another big issue, but it's not as much of a forefront as other issues. In New Jersey, it's a big issue, right? We have AI data centers that have sprung up across the country that are contributing to rising electric bills. And the plan for Mikey Sherrill is she's going to declare a state of emergency on utility prices on her first day in office. Now, can she do that? I'm not sure, but her team and her lawyers seem to think that she can. And the biggest thing that she's trying to do is focus on renewable energy in the wake of the president canceling a bunch of renewable energy projects and things like that. And so the biggest thing that New Jersey's trying to do is focus on renewable energy. So, for example, there's this thing called the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, and it's a lot of the states in the Northeast and New England, it's basically just a compact in a way. It's just it's a group of all of them. It's a group that they did to try to help utility costs and energy production in all the states. And Jack Chitterelli, his plan is to, as soon as he is governor, withdraw from that. And they say that the Republicans are saying it's going to help utility costs. I am
And I
skeptical.
asked one thing. So from my understanding, Shirelli is someone that, or Shirelles is someone that it makes sense that it needs her, or well, my apology. For Shirelle, it makes sense that her policy is something that is going to be freezing and kind of putting some regulation into the pricing. One thing with Shirelli that I'm interested in, he says he wants to build nuclear power and distribute energy solutions like solar panels, opposing the offshore wind farms that New Jersey is
Those
prominently
are
gets
dead,
a
by the
lot
way.
of what
Those are dead, by the way. That's
really.
dead. That project died because the president hates wind, and the developer pulled out.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, that project is dead. Yes. So that's another
So
fucking big factor.
so you and I are both are avid supporters of nuclear energy.
Yes.
And what are your thoughts on the nuclear energy aspect of that?
I mean, nuclear energy is obviously a big thing, and it's like, but the problem is we don't invest in it at the federal level. And states do not have the resources to undergo building nuclear power plants and having the infrastructure for nuclear power plants without support from the federal government, which is not inclined to give them any support in this time right now.
Makes sense. Now,
So that's the biggest problem right now facing, right? And that's why I think focusing on like cheaper out, easier resources to implement, like renewables, like solar, for example, which is what New Jersey's going to have to try to do because we can't really do anything with wind right now because, again, for the federal government. So
yes.
we're in a
And
tough spot right now when it comes to renewable energy and energy production right now.
so we're going to touch on the last couple big things, and these are more state policy ballot measures. And that'll either be a state regulation or just a statewide ballot measure. We'll start with Texas, then California. We already talked about Virginia's, which was the legislative option to redraw the districts. This is more if the Democrat were to win than a Republican. We already touched on that. That's HGR 6007. Now in Texas, there's Prop 2 and Prop 16. Prop 2 is the one that is actually would be impactful because it's capital gains tax being prohibited, and it basically creates a fiscal firewall against taxation, realized or unrealized capital gains. So basically, it makes Texas a tax haven if you were to invest in money, or your company were to gain investment or profits off of investments. You don't have to be taxed off of those profits, which basically takes money out of the federal
The
government,
state's fine.
the
Yep.
state's pockets. And
Which
you
Texas loves to do. They
yeah,
love, and to piggyback off this, there's debate in the legislature about uh giving like property tax credits to those over 65. And so older people are going to disproportionately benefit from both not having to pay capital gains taxes because general they own more of the wealth, and property taxes that are going to property tax like relief. So Texas is really, really doing a
it
good job of
it
running of
incentivizes, correct me if I'm wrong, old people to retire there because of their retirement funds, and for companies to headquarters there so
yes.
they run invest cap like VC
Oh
venture
yeah.
capitalists and shit like that.
Oh yeah. Texas is continuing to try to do that, which is, I mean, it's a good for rich people to make money, but it's going to continue to have like the poor people who are already dealing with like a lot of problems with like, energy, which is obviously a big problem everywhere, like utilities and other things. And it's just like it's just another classic it's another classic rich people victory, I guess,
Yeah.
as they
Now
always seem to
moving
do.
now moving they also have Prop 16, which is just a posturing law, which is a non-citizen
Oh
voting
yeah.
ban, which is just that's already a requirement of the US Constitution. So all it does is
Yes.
it's just literally
Non-citizens only vote in like
grandstanding. It's just
local
grandstanding.
non-citizens can only vote in like municipal elections where the municipalities let them vote in, right? So it's like they can't vote in state elections and they can't vote in federal elections. They've never been able to. They can't, and it's yeah, like you said, it's purely grandstanding at this point.
Yeah, and
And
I think it
at the
does.
end of the day,
It would
it's
bar
gonna
them
make
from local elections officially.
yes, and it's also at the end of the day, all these citizenship voting requirements are just designed to make it harder for people to vote, even if they are citizens and can vote. That's the goal. That's
Eh,
how it is. That's how it's always been, and that's why like you have like if they don't have like strict voting requirements to prevent people from voting, like New Jersey, the DOJ says they're likely going to monitor New Jersey elections. So we'll
Yes.
wait for that
Then
piece.
Prop Fit 50 in California is the popular one that would authorize the legislation to redraw the map to gain 5 Democrat seats for the 26 to 2030 basically legislation window. And that's one that everyone is known about because they're the state that could squeak out the most. And it's seemingly that one's probably going to pass.
Yes, it seems like it, even though some Democrats have like tried to oppose it because they want to take the moral high ground, even though unfortunately you can't take the moral high ground right now. It's gonna pass. At the end of the day, some of the Democratic states, they gave up redistricting power to like independent commissions or the courts because it was the right thing to do. I agree that's the right thing to do. But now we're seeing people redrawing districts before the 2030 census, right? We're in the middle of the census period. People are already redrawing districts. Republican states have overwhelmed, or the fight is on, right? Because they know things aren't looking good for them. And so the only way to counteract that is to do the same. And hopefully more states realize that and more Democratic politicians realize that because it's like the dog is playing basketball. Time to let our dog play basketball.
Yeah. And now moving into the final ballot measures, this is from city levels. We have Boulder over here looking to implement the creation of a new public realm tax, which would increase city property tax mill levy to generate an estimated 7 million in annual revenue for
That's
city
actually interesting.
infrastructure projects related to parks, open space, and public right of way, as well as a vacancy tax and a vacancy fee for to address empty properties. And this would be revenue created to be used for general purposes. And that is, yeah, basically those are just kind of just community improvement, like taxes to just improve the community. Then you have the city of Minneapolis that wants to put a flat fee. It is a residential commercial vacant property fee of a flat fee of $7,000. City of Lakewood commercial vacant property fee, a flat fee of $700 every 6 months, plus an 800 emergency service respond fee. City of Berkeley residential empty homes tax,
I
tiered
like
flat
these.
tax based on property tax, 3K to 6K for the first year, 6K to 12K for second and subsequent years. And then City of San Francisco residential empty homes tax, tiered flat tax based on property square footage, 2,500 to 5,000. Basically, telling people if you like, stop having vacant land, stop having
I
vacant
actually
land.
like these. Yeah. I think that
And
this is I think these should be more widely implemented because yes, I think for making people pay if they have land that's not developed or not being used for anything. In the crisis that we have today where we need space to have homes and things, all this vacant land, it's got to go. Got to do something with it.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And yeah, that is basically everything we had. Look, from ballots to governor races that we think you should be paying attention to. Just a reminder, go vote if your city is having an election. It is never too late to vote. I guess it like you're if you're not registered, you're kind of screwed. But
Some places have same day registration, which I think needs to be a nationwide thing, obviously. But
yes,
go vote. Even if it's 2025 and it's not the midterm election, go vote. There's always stuff on the ballot. There's always important things on the ballot. In America, that's the main voice you have. It's your main outlet to try to affect change on the individual level, and it's your responsibility to do it. People say they have the right to vote. Yes, but it's your duty. And I think more people need to see that, especially in odd numbered years where turnout is very low for the most part.
exactly. And you can change with a vote. One vote does lead to change.
Yes, it does.
All right, that's it from Rock, Hound and Chappie. We'll be back in 2 weeks discussing whatever the heck's going on then. We're testing out which format works better. A shorter format like this, if you made it to the end, let us know. It'll help out the channel a ton. And hit that like and subscribe button or follow button if you're listening to this. You got anything to say, Rockhound?
Nah, you summed it up. Like and
All right.
follow or subscribe and go vote. Vote or die.
Vote or die. Till next time, guys. Cheers.